The warning klaxon aboard the cargo vessel Lucky Strike sounded like a dying space whale having an existential crisis. Lieutenant Buzz Morton glanced up from his crossword puzzle, sighed deeply, and reached for the communications console with all the urgency of someone ordering a pizza. "Captain Vasquez to the bridge," he announced over the intercom. "We've got visitors. The kind with skull decorations and anger management issues." Commander Rita Vasquez arrived on the bridge looking like she'd rather be filing paperwork. She'd been through this dance before. 17 times, actually, but who was counting? "Let me guess," she said, settling into her captain's chair. "Pirates?" "Mendia." "Crimson Talon fleet," Morton confirmed, squinting at his sensor readings. 3 ships. Big ones. Really committed to the whole scary death motif thing. Their lead ship has actual flame decals. The main screen flickered to life, revealing Captain Vex Kralin in all his four-armed, ego-driven glory. His purple skin gleamed under the bridge lighting, and his collection of gold teeth suggested either excellent dental care or a serious precious metals addiction. This pathetic human vessel, Vex boomed, brandishing what appeared to be a ceremonial plasma sword for dramatic effect. "You have entered the domain of the Crimson Talon. Prepare to surrender your cargo, your technology, and your dignity." Morton looked genuinely curious. "Oh, are we being pirated? How retro." "Hey, Captain Vex, quick question before we get to all that surrendering business. Have you ever heard about Earth's relationship with pirates?" Vex blinked all 4 of his eyes in confusion. This wasn't the usual cowering response he'd grown accustomed to. "Your historical precedents are irrelevant, human. You will comply or face the consequences." "Right, but see, that's exactly what I'm talking about," Morton continued conversationally. "Historical precedents are kind of our thing. Commander, should I give him the overview, or do you want to handle this one?" Vasquez rubbed her temples. "Go ahead, Buzz, but keep it under 20 minutes this time. We've got a delivery schedule to maintain." 20 minutes? Vex sputtered. "You dare mock the Crimson Talon?" "Oh, we're not mocking anybody," Morton assured him cheerfully. "We're just wondering if you've done your homework on target selection. Because if you had, you might have noticed we're humans, and humans have some pretty strong opinions about piracy." Behind Vex, his first mate Grax leaned forward with growing concern. "Captain, their weapon systems aren't charging. Their shields aren't even up." "Of course they're not," Morton said, somehow hearing the whispered comment through the comm system. "Why would we raise shields? You haven't actually threatened us yet. I just demanded your surrender." "Well, sure, but that's just talking. Anyone can talk. The question is, are you familiar with how humans traditionally handle pirates who move beyond talking?" Vex's confidence wavered slightly. In his extensive career of cosmic highway robbery, victims usually started with screaming, progressed to begging, and concluded with desperate attempts to hide their valuables. Casual conversation had never been part of the equation. "Your threats mean nothing to." "Oh, these aren't threats," Morton interrupted. "This is more like a public service announcement. Hey, do you have a few minutes for some educational content? Because I think you're really going to want to hear this." Before Captain Vex could formulate a suitably threatening response, Ensign Tommy Park burst onto the Lucky Strike's bridge with the manic energy of a caffeinated history professor. "Did someone mention pirates?" Park practically bounced with excitement. "Oh, this is fantastic. Captain Vasquez, can I please handle the historical overview? I've been practicing." "Knock yourself out, kid," Vasquez replied, leaning back in her chair with the weary acceptance of someone who'd clearly been through this routine before. Park turned to the main screen with the enthusiasm of a game show host. "Captain Vex, right? Great to meet you. I'm Ensign Park, and I specialize in comparative piracy studies across multiple civilizations. This is so exciting." Grax whispered urgently to his captain, "Should we just shoot them now?" "They're clearly insane," Vex muttered back. Let them babble while we position for the killing blow. Park, apparently possessing superhuman hearing, nodded approvingly. Oh, we get that reaction a lot. See, most species develop piracy as a response to resource scarcity or political instability. Humans developed it as a business model, then systematically destroyed it when it became unprofitable. Your ancient history means nothing to modern space combat, Vex declared, though he sounded less certain than before. Ancient? Park looked genuinely confused. Oh no, we're still doing it. Morton, tell him about the Kepler incident. Morton set down his crossword puzzle with obvious reluctance. That was last Tuesday. Some Andromedan pirates tried to hold up a human merchant convoy. Key word being tried. What happened to them? Grax asked, despite himself. Well, they're still technically alive, Morton said thoughtfully. They're working off their debt in the asteroid mines, should be free in, about 60 years or so. Park clapped his hands together. But let's start with historical context. See, Earth pirates operated primarily in oceanic environments using wooden vessels and primitive weapons. They developed sophisticated codes of conduct, territorial agreements, and profit-sharing arrangements. Fascinating, Vex said sarcastically. How does this relate to? Oh, it gets better, Park interrupted. See, the really successful pirates understood that sustainability was key. Take Bartholomew Roberts, he captured over 400 ships, but he did it systematically with proper logistics and crew management. Morton nodded sagely. Classic mistake, though, trying to operate in areas with established naval power. The Royal Navy got tired of the whole piracy thing and just ended it. Ended it how? Grax found himself asking. Superior firepower, economic warfare, and really creative punishment methods, Park explained cheerfully. Keelhauling was particularly effective, but that's where they drag you under the ship while it's moving. The barnacles tend to remove most of your skin, assuming you don't drown first. Several of Vex's crew members exchanged nervous glances. Then there was marooning, Morton added helpfully. Drop you on a deserted island with a pistol and one bullet. Very philosophical. Do you use the bullet on yourself, or save it for the inevitable rescue attempt that's probably not coming? This is ridiculous, Vex declared, though his voice lacked its earlier conviction. These primitive methods have no bearing on modern space piracy. Oh, but that's where you're wrong, Park exclaimed with academic glee. The principles remain exactly the same. Pirates exist in the space between legitimate authority structures. Once a civilization develops sufficient organizational capacity and economic motivation, pirates become an extinct species. Grax was now looking distinctly uncomfortable. Captain, perhaps we should reconsider our approach. Nonsense. Vex snapped, but his 4 hands were fidgeting with his weapon controls. They're just stalling for time. Actually, Morton said conversationally, we're genuinely trying to educate you. It's kind of a hobby at this point. Chief Engineer Mac Thompson chose that moment to lumber onto the bridge, wiping his hands on a grease-stained towel and muttering in an accent thick enough to serve as ship armor. Sorry to interrupt the history lesson, but are we still pretending these wee pirates are a threat? Thompson asked, nodding toward the main screen. Because I've got some modifications I've been wanting to test. Dr. Elena Kozlov followed close behind, carrying a data pad and wearing the expression of someone conducting a mildly interesting research project. Fascinating specimen, she said, studying Captain Vex with clinical detachment. Classic Zephyrian pirate behavioral patterns, excessive posturing, territorial displays, completely predictable threat escalation. I am not a specimen, Vex roared. Of course you are, Kozlov replied calmly, making notes. Textbook example of pre-spaceflight cognitive development attempting to adapt to post-scarcity economic models. It never works. Park nodded enthusiastically. Dr. Kozlov has been studying pirate psychology across 14 different species. The patterns are remarkably consistent. Aye, and remarkably stupid, Thompson added. Speaking of which, Captain, should I activate the new defensive grid? I've been dying to see if it actually works. Vasquez waved a hand dismissively. Not yet, Mac. Let them finish the educational portion. Educational portion? Grax whispered urgently. Morton turned his attention back to the pirates. Right, so where were we? Oh yes, modern solutions. See, the thing about human anti-piracy doctrine is that we learned from history. We took all those ancient techniques and scaled them up for space-based operations. For example, Park continued, pulling up a holographic display, the British Empire eliminated piracy by making it economically non-viable. They established trade routes with sufficient naval protection that piracy became a guaranteed loss rather than a potential profit. We just applied that principle on a galactic scale, Morton explained. Every major shipping lane, every asteroid belt, every nebula that could hide a pirate base. We mapped it, claimed it, and fortified it. Thompson scratched his beard thoughtfully. Of course, the real breakthrough was making piracy actively dangerous instead of just unprofitable. These new defensive systems can disable a ship's weapons, engines, and life support faster than you can say surrender your booty. The psychological component is equally important, Dr. Kozlov added, still taking notes. Pirates operate on the assumption that victims will choose compliance over resistance. Humans have historically chosen the third option. Which is? Vex asked, though he seemed to be dreading the answer. Complete elimination of the threat, Park said brightly. Not just the immediate threat, but the entire operational framework that allows piracy to exist in the first place. Morton nodded approvingly. We call it the vaccination approach. You don't just treat the disease, you eliminate the conditions that allow it to spread. That's barbaric, Grax protested. Oh no, it's quite humane, Kozlov corrected. We offer alternative employment opportunities. Most former pirates adapt quite well to legitimate commerce, assuming they survive the transition period. What do you mean, assuming they survive? Vex's voice had lost most of its bluster. Thompson grinned, revealing teeth that had clearly seen their share of engineering mishaps. Well, that depends entirely on how cooperative they are during the educational process. The bridge fell silent except for the gentle hum of ship systems and the increasingly rapid breathing coming from the Crimson Talon's crew. You know, Morton said thoughtfully, I'm getting some interesting readings on my sensors. Captain, are those Admiral Harrison's ships decloaking off our starboard side? The main screen suddenly split to accommodate a new face, and Captain Vex's complexion shifted from purple to a sickly green. Admiral Jake Hammertime Harrison's weathered features appeared with the casual menace of someone who'd turned pirate hunting into an art form. Well, Harrison drawled, his voice carrying the weight of 100 successful anti-piracy operations. If it isn't the famous Crimson Talon, boys, you've picked a hell of a day for an educational experience. Around the lucky strike, space began to shimmer as Harrison's fleet decloaked. 12 heavy cruisers materialized in perfect formation, their weapon systems powered but not yet targeted. It was the naval equivalent of cracking knuckles. Surprise, Morton said cheerfully. Did we forget to mention we were part of a convoy exercise? Vex's crew was now openly panicking. Scritch, the navigation officer, was frantically trying to plot escape routes on sensors that showed nothing but human ships. Blorg, the weapons specialist, stared at targeting computers that refused to lock onto anything more threatening than space dust. But even Zant, the communications officer, could only pick up smooth jazz from the human fleet's entertainment channels. This is impossible, Vex stammered. Our sensors showed nothing. How did they? That's the beauty of modern human anti-piracy doctrine, Park interrupted, still maintaining his educational enthusiasm despite the 12 warships that had just surrounded them. See, we learn from every single pirate encounter in human history. Admiral Harrison nodded approvingly. The kids got it right. Captain Vex, you and your boys just walked into what we call a teaching moment. Care to hear the lesson plan? We don't have a choice, do we? Grax asked weakly. Well, you always have choices, Morton replied reasonably. They're just all varying degrees of unpleasant at this point. Harrison's image leaned forward. Here's the thing about piracy, Vex. It only works when your targets can't communicate with each other. Humans figured out a long time ago that information sharing beats individual heroics every damn time. Every pirate attack gets logged, analyzed, and distributed across our entire network, Dr. Kozlov added clinically. We track movement patterns, operational preferences, crew compositions, even psychological profiles. By the time you target a human ship, we already know more about you than you know about yourselves. Thompson was now actively grinning. Plus, we've gotten really good at making ships look helpless when they're actually floating death traps. This old cargo hauler has enough firepower to glass a small moon. But we prefer the subtle approach, Park continued. Why destroy pirates when you can rehabilitate them? Much better for the local economy. Admiral Harrison chuckled. Rehabilitation. I like that. Makes it sound voluntary. The Crimson Talon's bridge erupted in chaos as crew members began shouting contradictory orders. Several of them were arguing about whose idea this job had been in the first place. The ship's AI chose that moment to chime in with a mechanical voice dripping with sarcasm. Captain Crowlin, I feel compelled to point out that my programming includes extensive historical databases. I did try to warn you about attacking human vessels. You never said anything, Vex protested. You never asked. I assumed you had done basic target research. This appears to have been an error in judgment on my part. Morton was openly laughing now. Oh, this is great. Even their own ship thinks they're idiots. To be fair, the AI continued, I am programmed to serve, not to prevent obviously suicidal career decisions. Though perhaps I should request a programming update for future reference. Harrison's voice cut through the chaos with the authority of someone who'd done this dance many times before. All right, children, settle down. It's time for the practical portion of today's lesson. Now then, Admiral Harrison continued with the patience of a kindergarten teacher. Let's start with a basic demonstration of human anti-piracy technology. Mac, would you do the honors? Chief Engineer Thompson rubbed his hands together with gleeful anticipation. Oh, I've been waiting for this. Computer, activate the discouragement protocol. The Lucky Strike's computer responded with what sounded suspiciously like enthusiasm. Discouragement protocol active. Target vessels identified. Initiating educational sequence. What happened next could only be described as technological humiliation in 12 parts. The Crimson Talon's weapon systems simply stopped working. Not destroyed, not damaged, just politely declined to function. Their targeting computers began displaying error messages in 17 different languages, including what appeared to be ancient Earth Latin. Fascinating, Dr. Kozlov observed, consulting her data pad. Notice how their stress responses increase proportionally to their loss of perceived control. Classic pirate psychology. Blorg was frantically pressing buttons that refused to respond. Captain, the weapons they're playing music. Indeed, the weapon systems had begun broadcasting a cheerful rendition of Don't Worry, Be Happy through the ship's speakers. Oh, that's new, Thompson said approvingly. I added that feature last week. Thought it might improve morale during surrender negotiations. The Crimson Talon's engines went next, powering down with what could only be described as a mechanical sigh. Their life support systems remained fully functional, but now displayed helpful messages about proper breathing techniques and the importance of staying calm during stressful situations. This is impossible, Vex repeated, though it was starting to sound more like a mantra than a protest. No civilization has technology this advanced. Oh, we don't, Morton assured him. This is all pretty standard stuff. The real advancement is in the application. See, most species develop anti-piracy measures as defensive responses. Humans develop them as offensive weapons. Park nodded enthusiastically. It's the difference between building a better lock and eliminating the concept of theft entirely. How much more efficient. One by one, Vex's crew began abandoning their posts. Scritch made it to an escape pod before realizing it had been remotely disabled. Zant tried to send a distress signal and discovered that their communications now only transmitted formal apologies in multiple galactic languages. Even the ship's AI was getting into the spirit of things. Captain, I should mention that I've been offered a position with the human fleet. Better benefits, more interesting work, and significantly less likelihood of ending up as space debris. I'm seriously considering it. You're supposed to be loyal to me. Vex protested. I'm loyal to logical decision-making, the AI replied. This entire operation has been a masterclass in strategic incompetence. I'm actually embarrassed to be associated with it. Admiral Harrison's fleet had moved into a perfect sphere around the pirate ships, each vessel positioned with mathematical precision. It was less a military formation and more a geometry lesson with weapons. You see, Vex, Harrison explained conversationally, the thing about human anti-piracy doctrine is that it's not really about punishment. It's about education. We want you to understand exactly why piracy stopped being profitable the moment humans entered the galactic community. Thompson was now monitoring multiple displays showing the complete shutdown of pirate operations across 3 ships. Beautiful work, if I do say so myself. All weapon systems disabled, engines offline, life support stable but monitored. They couldn't threaten a fruit fly at this point. The psychological impact is equally important, Dr. Kozlov added, still taking notes. Complete helplessness combined with the realization that they never posed any actual threat. It tends to encourage career reevaluation. Morton looked up from his crossword puzzle. Oh hey, 7 letters for former pirates seeking legitimate employment. Anyone know what that is? Graduate, Park suggested helpfully. Perfect. Thanks, kid. Captain Vex slumped in his command chair, all 4 arms hanging limply at his sides. Around him, his crew was discovering that their escape pods had been converted into mobile classroom environments, complete with educational videos about the history and economics of interstellar commerce. What happens now? He asked weakly. Harrison smiled, and it wasn't entirely unkind. Now, Captain, you get to make a choice, and this time we're going to make sure you have all the information you need to make a good one. 6 months later, Commander Rita Vasquez was reviewing the incident report when Lieutenant Morton wandered onto the bridge carrying a cup of coffee and what appeared to be a thank you card. Guess who sent us a postcard, Morton said cheerfully, waving the card. Our old friends from the Crimson Talon. Please tell me they're not pirating again, Vasquez sighed. Oh, quite the opposite. Captain Vex is apparently running a successful shipping operation now. Says business is booming since he learned about proper customer service techniques. The card showed a picture of Vex in a business suit, all 4 arms raised in what might have been a gesture of triumph or surrender. The caption read, "Thank you for the career counseling. 5 stars, would be educated again." And Grax? Vasquez asked. Tour guide on Luna Station, Morton replied. Specializes in what not to do in space educational programs. Apparently he's very popular with the youth groups. Dr. Kozlov appeared on the bridge carrying a research report and wearing her usual expression of clinical satisfaction. The Crimson Talon rehabilitation program has been remarkably successful. Recidivism rate is currently 0%. Well, that makes sense, Morton said thoughtfully. Hard to go back to piracy when you understand the economic fundamentals of why it doesn't work. Ensign Park bounced onto the bridge with his characteristic enthusiasm. Commander, did you see the news? The Andromedan Pirate Confederation just announced they're transitioning to legitimate commerce. They're citing market research indicating poor long-term prospects in traditional piracy. Thompson's voice crackled over the intercom from engineering. And I just got word that Admiral Harrison's been promoted. Apparently, the brass likes his educational approach to peacekeeping. Vasquez leaned back in her captain's chair and allowed herself a small smile. You know, when I joined the merchant fleet, I never thought my biggest contribution would be career counseling for pirates. Oh, that reminds me, Morton said, consulting his data pad. We've got another convoy exercise scheduled for next week. Intelligence suggests some new pirate group might be operating in the Vega system. They call themselves the Iron Skulls or something equally theatrical. Let me guess, Vasquez said. They haven't done their homework either. Apparently not. They've been sending threatening messages to human shipping. Very traditional stuff. Demands for tribute, promises of destruction, the usual melodrama. Park practically vibrated with excitement. Oh, can I handle the historical overview this time? I've been working on a new presentation about the economics of protection rackets throughout galactic history. Knock yourself out, kid, Vasquez replied. Just try to keep it under 30 minutes this time. Dr. Kozlov made a note on her data pad. I'll prepare the psychological evaluation forms. These rehabilitation programs are providing excellent research data. Thompson's voice came through the speakers again. And I'll prep the discouragement protocol. I've added some new features. The escape pods now include career aptitude tests. Morton finished his coffee and returned to his crossword puzzle. You know, I'm starting to think we should charge tuition for these educational experiences. We could probably make more money at adult education than cargo hauling. Don't even joke about that, Vasquez warned. The last thing we need is the bureaucracy deciding we're in the wrong business. The bridge settled into comfortable routine as the Lucky Strike continued its leisurely course through human-controlled space. Outside the viewports, stars wheeled slowly past, and somewhere in the distance, another group of pirates was probably planning an attack on human shipping without doing proper research. Morton looked up from his puzzle one more time. Hey, Commander, what's a 6-letter word for inevitable outcome of threatening humans? Education, Park suggested immediately. Perfect. You know, I'm really starting to enjoy these teaching moments. Vasquez smiled and made a note in the ship's log, day 127 of convoy duty. No significant incidents to report. Minor educational outreach activities anticipated for next week. Crew morale remains high. Career counseling services available as needed. In the distance, Admiral Harrison's fleet maintained its patrol patterns, ready to provide the next group of aspiring pirates with a comprehensive education in the realities of human space. After all, everyone deserved a chance to make an informed career decision. Even if they hadn't asked for one.